he would have been,
languishing.
quite a few points behind. So,
But with that victory, that was a trifecta. And he's definitely got the momentum on his side as he opens up, holy smokes, with the center. No, the Danish
Gambit.
Wow. I mean, Magnus has been all over the map in his opening play. What do you think of his decision, Var?
yes, I think it's his goal or strategy in this tournament, just try to surprise his opponent in every game and play some offbeat lines. He mentioned that he hasn't been doing any chess studying or practicing, so he's definitely a little bit rusty and maybe not as up-to-date on the current theory in some of these critical lines. So that's why he's just trying to experiment in the openings.
By the way, I feel I too am not up to date on the current theory of this ancient opening. And what does theory prescribe? Knight f3 or queen takes d4? He played knight f3.
Well, also the move knight f6 played by Levon. It's not the most popular move here. Queen takes d5 is the main move instead of knight f6.
Right.
So after knight f6, we have only a few games in the database here, and knight f3 only one game actually. So it's a completely new territory here, and Levon has the option to take back with a knight or with a queen. And if you take back with the queen, we're going to see probably some isolated pawn type of positions. C takes d5.
That looks like Scandinavian.
Bishop b4 check.
It does.
Knight c3 and black and castle, and we have this isolated pawn position. I think it's just roughly equal at the moment.
But I tell you, this position with the isolated pawn after queen takes d5, I mean, if I'm white, I'm saying, thank goodness I have that position. I don't have a Petrov. I don't have a Berlin. It looks like, a great game.
But I think
Levon has actually went into the tank.
Right, but
he recognize
let's not forget, Magnus did sacrifice a pawn.
He's got it back
So-
on
go.
cue. On
Yeah.
cue. Knight takes d5, queen takes d4. Okay,
Probably
bishop b5.
Yeah.
Seems like a very standard approach here for white. By the way, the queen on d4 is annoying because the desirable bishop to e7 to bishop f6 will hang the g7 pawn, and we have bishop
I
e5.
think it's still playable.
Queen
but
e7
Levon
check.
went queen e7. Does white have knight e5 now? Because
Knight
d5
e5 is the
hanging.
best move.
You don't have time for
Knight
f6. d5's hanging.
You know, I
I'm gonna
agree with
cancel
you. Knight
next.
e5. I was just, I mean, it's gross. Forgive me, but I was even thinking about
King
king d1 and rook. Don't do this at home, everybody. But king d1, rook e1, bishop g5. But yes, knight e5. What would happen after knight e5, Var?
It's the best move, but it's also a very unusual idea. You're checked and you're blocking with the move and pinning yourself. But it's the best
Right.
move here.
And he
Bishop
played it.
d7.
Bishop d7 played
Bishop
by
takes
Levon.
d7. That was forced.
Yes, bishop takes c6.
c6. I apologize. Bishop
and
takes c6. I'm assuming bishop takes c6, and then
Just
we could
castle?
castle.
in both cases, white just castles and is actually much better.
Much better.
Much better, yes. BC is probably a little bit better, just giving a little bit more support to the d5 knight. So if he takes BC, just castles f6, you need to remove this knight from e5, and
Well, let me eat that bishop.
yeah, you take the bishop on d7, queen takes d7, and now white will play the move rook d1.
By the way, we do have bishop takes c6 on the board by Levon, and castles is on the board. Queen e6 by Levon.
Yes, he's trying to perhaps capture back with the queen, but actually that's not going to work because the best move here is knight takes c6.
Which has happened.
And if you take with the queen,
Rook
check.
e1
rook
check.
e1 check,
Can we take on g7?
you have to play bishop g7. And
Bishop
in this
e7.
case, you have actually two options. Both moves are very strong here, queen g7, or I think I like this move even better, c4, removing the knight from d5.
And we have it on the board. Now the question, I mean, I'm a pawn grabber, but I love that move c4 as well, because that move c4 means the king is stuck.
There's one
in the
problem
center.
with queen g7. Long castle and rook g8 attacking g2.
I'm taking your pawns. You're giving them to me. I'm
Yeah,
taking
but
queen
it's
g7,
blitz.
queen f7.
It's blitz, and playing for checkmate is very easy when you have no time.
Winning when you're 2 pawns ahead is really easy to do. I don't know.
Actually,
Okay,
there's one
here
interesting
it
line
is.
after c4, guys. I think you might like this line. So if you play c4 here,
Yes.
knight b4, I think is the most logical
Yes.
move. Try to create some threats. You actually ignore the fact that knight c2 is coming. You just play knight c3, developing.
So knight c2.
Knight c2.
Take on e7.
Take on e7.
Check with the knight.
And now you give up the other rook as well. Queen takes g7.
Oh, you don't even check with the knight. You just lead with the
Yes,
queen.
because if you take on a1 now,
Yep.
knight d5 check.
Yep.
And
You don't want to lose the rook.
yes, if you play king d7 or king e6, it's the same thing. I have queen f6, so let's say king d7. Just queen takes f7,
Beautiful.
king d8, bishop g5, and as you can see, the move knight d7 wins the
Magnus
queen.
is still thinking he
And-
might just
and
be
again-
calculating all this.
Well, he's tempted by the pawn, as we are, and then he's seeing c4, and he knows that once he plays c4 and the knight goes, that black king is stuck. And he's sensing opportunity here. And this move, c4, right here, right now, key moment. And
But he's
Nasi,
down
I
to
got to
2
ask
minutes.
you, is he going to play c4 or queen g7?
I think he's going to play c4.
That's your intuition telling you. I think he's going to play c4 too, but if he takes the pawn on g7, we're going to send him a gold membership, the coveted gold membership to the Pawn Grubbers Association. As president, I have the power. Now.
Wow,
here-
down to 1 minute and 35 seconds.
I
That's
mean,
it.
he's investing a lot of time in c4, and Levon knows that c4, but Levon's saying, take your time, Magnus, take your time. And he's done it.
Takes on g7.
He's taken
Quickly
the pawn,
castle, queen g4 check.
and he's saying, okay, gold membership for Magnus in the
And I just heard from Dariush
pawn.
that queen f3 was a mistake.
queen f3 was a mistake. It looks so
Yes.
natural. Knight d2, and he's eyeballing, just look, I'm a pawn up, centralize my pieces, get them developed. Knight e4, bishop g5 is on my agenda. Var, I don't see the compensation here, is there?
It's a little bit of compensation
A
here,
little.
but that move rook d6 would have been definitely stronger with the
Huge
idea
blunder.
of rook f6.
Guys, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I think Levon just blundered. Bishop g5 is coming.
Yeah, after the queen trade, you're right. Knight b3, give me the bishop, and bishop g5, and that's lights out.
A very strange decision also to trade queens, because that's the last thing you probably want to do when you're just down a pawn here. and-
Especially with the open g file, White's king was a little vulnerable. That's it. That looks.
yeah, this is
that
just
looks
completely
terrible.
lost
A line
now.
I'm looking at, bishop b6, bishop g5, rook
Yeah.
d6, and just c4.
And c5.
You can't move the c pawn with black because of bishop f4.
Bishop f4, yeah, that's nasty
Wow.
as c5.
And
And he's
let's
played
say-
bishop b6, but bishop g5, no!
Magnus missed it.
How could you not play bishop g5? That's an automatic. Was he afraid of knight g4?
Maybe I missed something, I don't know.
Bishop g5, knight g4, there's a bishop f2 check, maybe. In any case, he played bishop e3 rather quickly. What is the clock situation, Stasi?
1 minute, 25 seconds for Magnus,
Okay.
and about the same for Levon.
But this extra pawn is
Yeah,
fine, but
Magnus' position is still much better.
But maybe bishop g5, knight g4 dissuaded him. In any
Probably.
case, bishop e3. Don't tell me that he's got compensation here, Var, because in the immortal words of Bent Larson, nobody will believe you.
No, he does not have a compensation. It's
Okay.
just a +3.
Plus
Just-
3.
Yeah, it's just complete the winning.
Okay.
Um,
Rook e8 on the board, bishop takes, and knight d4. We caught up with the players, and yeah. Not
So-
only is it an extra pawn, by the way,
Right.
it's the weaknesses too.
So queen f6 by Levon was a huge blunder.
It was. It was just, that's it. It was a huge blunder. Knight e4 and g3, just very, very nicely consolidating.
And there's
making
nothing
love.
you can really attack. That's the problem
Yes.
for Levon. There is no counterplay, something that you can attack to confuse your opponent or create some chances.
Exactly.
Uh,
He's doing his best as
yes,
he's
knight
eyeballing
c4.
an opportunity in the near future, playing knight c4, trying to create something. But king g2, knight c4, b3, get out of here. Nobody cares. King g2, c5. Okay, throw it out there, why not? And knight f3. And trade. What do we do when we're ahead, everybody?
Exchange pieces.
Exchange pieces. That's been a winning formula. You won't believe it for 1600
Now knight
years.
g5 is a threat here. Knight g5 attacking h7 and also setting up knight takes f7 with rook e7 idea.
That's
Yeah, I mean, white has an extra pawn, black has doubled pawns and separated pawns on the king side.
right.
This is a very easy
This
endgame
could be a
to
huge
win.
win for Magnus.
Should be, but it's about the clocks now, as well as nerves. I
Right.
mean, you know, everybody knows when you're winning, but you know, just bringing the point home, that's the tough part. Rook
Both
check,
players
king
under
d8,
1 minute.
and rook drop back to e2. Interesting move. I thought that Magnus might have been contemplating rook e5 when
Maybe
rook.
he doesn't want to give Levon knight c4, knight b2.
Yeah, any counter chances whatsoever, but I thought he was going for that. Instead, he dropped back with the rook, and it's time for this knight to come into the game. Love that
He
move.
heard you.
Yeah, love that move. And
Oh.
Levon immediately, as he was releasing his king, walked into knight takes
We
f7.
might see resignation very soon.
That's a second pawn, and oof.
And
That's